Welcome to the Mystery College Podcast. Today we are with Shreeram and Alex. We'll be going over the first step of initiation Hermetics and perhaps the second step if we have the time. But we really want to deep dive into the first step, second step, in order to really understand what Franz Bardon was talking about from a Vedic lens. We all know that Franz Bardon took a great deal of influence from Vedic and Pan-Indian systems of thought, meditation, spirituality, and self-actualization. So thankfully, we're in the 21st century. We can go directly to the source for people who are part of these living lineages so that they can help connect the dots and fill in for areas where Bardon didn't have the opportunity to share because the resources, the knowledge that he had access to in his time were more limited to than what we have now. Because we can hop on Zoom or Google Meets and we can talk with people who are part of these living traditions and thus get the most direct resource material, not books or letters, but we can speak to living lineages that are some even thousands of years old. So welcome to the show, guys.
Welcome. So once again, we have as our esteemed guest, Dr. Shreeram Krishnan, who we've had him before on the show, and we are grateful to have him again. So we're doing something new here, folks. Originally, the episode where Dr. Ram was with us was just a deliberation on his new book, the systems that were espoused in it, and his personal experiences with the Kalabhairava Tantra that his book was about. But we want to do a deeper dive into the subject matter. And so what we're going to do here is a little bit of a, you can call it a Socratic dialogue, if you will. So what we have will be Dr. Ram is going to deliberate over Bardon's system, of which he is also initiated into and he's very familiar with. He will compare and contrast that with the system that he covers in his own book, Wonderful System, Lovely System. And I am going to step in every now and then if there is a need to clarify any certain terminologies that might be lost in translation when it comes to the linguistic barrier between Sanskrit and English, because things happen, things get lost in translation. All of that being said, Jai Shri Ganesh, let us begin. Dr. Ram, thank you very much for being with us today, and let's roll.
You guys are welcome, and I'm glad to be back. That too, within a short amount of time, I'm glad to be here. And thanks for the opportunity that you guys have given to me. So, yeah, namaste. So, let us start. So, what I would like to touch upon today is the initial steps in Bardon's tradition, especially his first book, Initiation into Hermetics. Because as we all know, all the fellow practitioners of initiation into Hermetics know that there are a total of 10 steps. Okay, so Bardon is starting with vacancy of mind and then concentration on a single thought. So these two aspects are dealt by him in the first steps. So this is the cornerstone. This is the foundation stone from where we can build up our own spiritual evolution, or how we can evolve spiritually. But many of the people have a difficulty in doing these steps, especially the first and the second one. So as I've told you before in one of my talks, I started this tradition when I was like 14 or 15. So when I was trying to go through the initial first two steps, I was having a great amount of difficulty. Okay, so after practicing it for months, I thought I cannot progress from here, and I discarded the training. And then I came across another work named Concentration by Mauni Sadhu. Okay, so this book has some, some very good exercises to develop our concentration, or to develop these faculties within us. So for example, one of the training that he's talking about is watching the second hand of a clock moving. And while you are watching it, you should only be aware of the second hand of the clock moving, nothing else. Nothing should come into our mind. We should only be present at that specific moment. So this may seem easy at first, but it is not. Trust me, it is not. So, and also if we look at a lot of retreat programs, that for 2 days, 3 days retreat programs, or 1 week retreat programs, where we seclude ourselves in a spiritual place or places which are of such kind of vibes. And then we start meditating and trying to control our thoughts, trying to do the vacancy of mind training. And after 1 week or 3 days or 4 days, whatever the time period of that retreat program is, at the end of the program, we will understand that we are miserably failed. This is the ultimate truth. Because even I have failed multiple times. So later I understood that after going through the exercises in concentration by Mauni Sadhu, I understood that this is not how we approach this. So how I approach to the exercises are not the right way to do it. So he is talking about observing the thoughts in a detached manner. So I think mindfulness is also a similar stuff right now. I have not tried it exactly. So it's pretty much like that. So you are observing your thoughts. So you are secluding yourself and you are observing your thoughts. In a passive manner, you are letting it go. So initially what happens after 10 or 20 seconds, suddenly you will be start thinking, so what am I going to have for my dinner? So this is something that comes in our mind. Or we will be thinking, so what are the pending work that I have? What are the work that I should submit by the end of the week? So, as a student, I have to cover these much of chapters because that was my teenage. I have to finish, I have to prepare for the exams, all these things. And even when I was in mid school, this is something that comes in our mind. So we need to overcome all these obstacles. That is a very big challenge. Okay. So as we try these exercises, we will understand that we will fail in multiple ways. So we will understand this is extremely difficult. Okay, but despite of all these setbacks, I practiced it. I practiced like the 10-second interval became 20 seconds, 30 seconds. It became 1 minute, 2 minutes, and eventually after months and years of training, we will reach a 5-minute point. And from there, we can expand this. So how I used to do this was, I will observe the thoughts passively. And then once I got a specific amount of success, I will put a timer for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. So once I became comfortable with the 5-minute interval, and I'm convinced that, yeah, I have successfully reached this mark, and then I will increase it by 10 seconds. Okay, 10 seconds, and it will eventually become 10, 15 minutes. You can expand it to as much as you want. Okay, so if you're okay with, at least I think you should reach 15 to 20 minutes in order to practice the other exercises. At least 15 to 20 minutes is necessary. So this is how I practice. Later, coming back to the Bhairavite tradition, we come to the Bhairavakali Dharma, or the, the Agama Shastras. They are mentioning several exercises for this. Okay, I'm not going into all of them. So there is an exercise where you are going to concentrate in the nada. Nada means it is the Shabda Brahman. Nada means it can be literally translated to sound, but it's not exactly sound. It's the Shabda Brahman. So how you exactly? Yeah.
The closest thing is vibration. Vibration. Yeah. Yes.
Shabda Brahman. Shabda Brahman means vibration, as he is saying. The primal sound, where we it can be correlated to how, but that is exactly not how we do it. So initially we will start staring in a plain wall. Okay, the plain wall, or in any object which is plain in nature. It should be bland. It should not be ornate, or it should not be something that deviates our mind. It should be bland. So wall is something that we can stare, a white wall. So there is nothing in that. So we start staring at the wall, and then eventually what happens? There is a external fog that builds up. So we will lose the awareness that we are watching the wall. We tend to become lost in our own thoughts at that point of time. This is where our initial training by passive observing the thoughts comes into play. Okay, then we are observing the thoughts, and then we are moving deeper into ourselves by staring the wall. Eventually the Nadabindu Upanishad says that we will start hearing a buzz, a sound, a buzzing sound will be heard. Then we have to concentrate on the buzzing sound. For me, this was like a bumblebee's hum. Okay, bumblebee's hum. So that's how I was able to hear this sound. And then once we start concentrating on the sound, eventually the inner awareness rises up. So these are all certain practices within the Bhairavite tradition I'm talking about. In my book, I have mentioned 2 other practices. One is the Ajaba Gayatri and the Chakrodaya. So as Alex told earlier, there are 3 cheats in this. One is the mantra, the syllable syllables or the chanting, and another one is the
Mudras or the hand forms.
mudras, and then the breathing exercises.
Yeah,
So
pranayama.
pranayama. So these three things comes into play here. So yogic tradition in the sense Patanjali's Yoga Shastra. I'm not talking about the Bhairavite Agama Shastra. So Patanjali's Yoga Shastra mentions that yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Chitta vritti means the thought process of the mind has to be halted or it should be stopped. So the halt of this mental noise is called as yoga. Yoga ha chitta vritti nirodha. So this is the explanation. And
It is through yoga that you become the king of your mind. Chitra mind, Pati Lord, the Lord of the mind through yoga. Yes.
Chitta vritti nirodha. And again, it says that yoga, yujyate anena iti yoga. That also they're saying union is yoga. Union in the sense it is talking about the inner awareness. You have become united. You understand that the external and inner nature is basically same. It is one and same. So that kind of definition is also there. So in the Chakrodaya and Ajaba Gayatri, I have mentioned different types of exercises. There are different stages for that. So initially, I'm talking about a technique where you are breathing with your throat and you are breathing with your heart. So it doesn't mean that you are literally breathing with your throat or heart. You are becoming aware of these regions while breathing in and out. And then I have mentioned something called as the Dwadashanta, the end of the 12. So basically you are going to keep your awareness outside your body about 12 angula. 12 angula you can consider it to be 12 inches. Angula means finger breadth. Okay. So 12 finger breadths distance from your nose or from your throat as such. And then you are going to keep your awareness outside. And then you are going to do the inhalation and exhalation. So, and then you are going to become aware of the interval between the inhalation and exhalation. Okay. You're going to become aware of the gap between these two breaths. So once you are concentrating or you are becoming aware of the gap between this is called as Rechaka, Puraka, Kumbhaka, etc. I'm not going into those technical terms. So I will keep it as inhalation and exhalation. So once you become aware of this gap, you will understand that there is a state of vacancy of mind. Your mind is becoming vacant.
And I have to clarify for the audience here who might be misunderstanding the terminology awareness. I understand that in the English parlance, to be aware is to know, certain things that one is feeling within the immediate sense of the body. But awareness, as it is established in the yogic tradition, is an awareness of the subtle changes, not just the subtle changes of the body, but the state of where one is and what one is. So when Dr. Ram says that when you commit to the beginning forms of the exercise, you become aware of intervals of breath. That's not all. There is this element in the mind control, if you will, practice, where you are aware that you are a physical form and that your physical form is situated in a physical plane, but that you are not the physical form and the physical plane. This is not something that is discussed either in the scientific literature of the West, nor is it discussed in the philosophy of the West, because the West is self-rooted. The East is eternally rooted, or it is source-rooted. And this dichotomy creates a distinct adjunct between awareness, Western meaning, awareness, Eastern meaning. So moving forward, when we say awareness, it is not the awareness of the self, but the awareness of the place of the self within the greater sphere of things. Dr. Ram, I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Thanks for clarifying that. It is very important that you clarify these terminologies, because you know what, I don't know how to explain this there are no proper terminologies in English for these things. That is the problem. So yeah, throughout my work, wherever I have mentioned a technical term in Sanskrit, I have explained what it is in English as well. So yeah, coming back to this, once you become aware of this vacancy or the gap, you reach a certain vacancy of mind. Okay. So from there, you need to expand this. So initially how it was, yeah, I have reached this state. This is what I thought. So when that thought comes into play, the entire exercise is lost. You are failing. Okay, you have to start from the beginning again. So after months and years of practice, you push yourself forward, and then you will reach a state of you will reach a level where you are able to maintain this, inner awareness for a longer period of time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, as I've explained before. So this is one way to do it. Okay, so in between the gaps. Another one is Ajaba Gayatri. So we will all know what is Gayatri mantra, and we are all singing it. The Westerners, I have known people who will put this YouTube video or the YouTube they will be singing it like a song. So that's some sort of what to say. Anyway, I'm not commenting on that. So everyone knows what Gayatri mantra is, but the real Ajaba Gayatri is basically, again, we are going to concentrate on the breath itself, inhalation and exhalation. So as I explained before, the developing the awareness between the two breaths is called a Sandhya Vandana. Okay, so Krishna also explains this. Sandhi means it is a transition phase from one to another. So a transition from inhalation and exhalation, and from exhalation to inhalation. So this is one. And then Ajaba Gayatri is the natural flow of breath. Okay, it is also called as Hamsa Gayatri. Hamsa means it is a swan. So just like how a swan swims in the river, it should be as smooth as that. So this is how the Hamsa came into Hamsa or Gayatri. Hamsa Gayatri came there. Okay.
When someone, and I know that there are individuals in our audience who are familiar with Sanskrit or familiar with mantrams and mantra work, for those individuals, they will understand what Dr. Ram is talking about when he says that there is a specific flow in the Gayatri mantra. But for those individuals who are probably unaware, or like the least that they've heard of the Gayatri mantra is the opening to Battlestar Galactica. It is in the opening of Battlestar Galactica, and a lot of people, that's their introduction to the Gayatri mantra. So if you will notice, if you enunciate the Gayatri mantra properly, it has a flow. Om Bhur Bhuvasvaha, and each of these enunciations will engage your lungs, your navel, your nose, your mouth. All of these interconnected parts will create a rhythm of breath. That's what he's trying to say here.
Not only that, what I am specifically saying here is Ajaba Gayatri is, this one is not much related to the traditional Gayatri mantra. So here, when we are taking the breath in and out, when we are concentrating on the breath in a detached manner, we are only becoming aware of the breath. There is a certain sound which rises up as hum and sa. Hum sa during the inhalation and exhalation, hum and sa. So in Bhairavite tradition, how it is mentioned is, so the exhalation is supposed to be, there are different controversies in this as well, but I will tell you what I have followed. So when we are exhaling, like I mentioned in my last talk, vama means to expel out. It's to create. Okay, expulsion is considered to be creation. And then when we are inhaling, again we are dissolving the externally projected objects. We are inhaling, so the external objects are being assimilated within ourselves as well. So this form of understanding is there in Bhairavite tradition. So that is why the inhalation and exhalation is correlated to creation, dissolution, or dissolution, creation, etc. So when you are concentrating on this inhalation and exhalation, there is the sound of hum and sa which rises up, and you are naturally becoming aware of this hum sa sound within yourself. This is the entire point of what Ajaba Gayatri. So now when we are comparing this to Bardon's training, where he is asking us to exclude every other thought but only one. So he is asking us to concentrate on one single thought by excluding out all others forcefully. So this forceful exclusion of other thoughts are literally impossible. That's what I'm telling. It's not easy, at least. Okay, it's almost close to impossible. So, but when we are talking about the Hamsa Pranayama that I have mentioned right now, we are naturally concentrating on the inhalation and exhalation. Here we are not talking about the gap. We are directly concentrating on the inhalation and exhalation. So then this Hamsa sound arises within ourselves, and the concentration on a single thought is accomplished after a long time of practice. So are you getting the point?
Please proceed.
No, that's what I was trying to tell you.
Yes.
So these are the initial two exercises that I mentioned. Again, chakrodaya, the meaning of chakra is not chakra in the traditional sense, okay? Like the chakras, like the Sapta chakras or the Shat chakra, that is not what we are going to explain here. The chakra here is the wheels of awareness, I can say. It is a chit chakra. So there are 5 types of chakras mentioned, which is accomplished. The highest level of accomplishment comes in Kali Sadhana. The 5 chakras. So these chakras are named after the Kali, which presides the chakra or the level of awareness. So we have the first one is Vyoma Vameshwari, or also called as Vyomeshwari. Then we have Gochari, Dikchari, Bhuchari, Kechari. Sorry, the Kechari comes second. After Vameshwari, Kechari comes second, then Gochari, Dikchari, and Bhuchari. Okay. So again, coming to this, Go also refers to sound. In Bhairavite tradition, Go doesn't mean cow. Go refers to sound. Vyoman, Vyomeshwari, the first Kali, refers to Akasha. This Akasha should not be confused with the Panchamaha Buddha Akasha, the elemental Akasha that Bardon talks about. That is different. This is pure consciousness. This is Chit Akasha. Pure consciousness. Consciousness means, I have mentioned the term as Parasamvit throughout my text, as the supreme subjectivity. This is not an empirical individual's awareness. So again, finally it comes to that only. The becoming aware of the self, the godly self is the ultimate. But Bardon has put this exercise initially as step 1. Are you able to understand the difficulty in practicing this? Okay, so again, coming back to the chakras, as I mentioned, these 5 chakras exist in, I'll tell you, the 5 chakras are considered to be Srishti chakra, Sthiti chakra, Samhara chakra, then Bhashya chakra and Niraki chakra or Anaki chakra. These are the 5 chakras that is there, or the wheels of consciousness. And again, this is called as Udyoga, Avabhasa, Charvana, Vilayana, Alangrasa. I will explain this in a while, okay? So Udyoga, Avabhasa, Charvana, Vilayana, Alangrasa. These are the 5 terminologies used. So what is the Srishti chakra? The Srishti chakra is the phase when the Parasamvida or the supreme subjectivity projects out to create. Okay, projects out to create. Now keep these things, I will explain it in a much more easy manner. Then the Sthiti chakra is something related to the Jnana Shakti or the knowledge principle or the omniscient principle, where the sustenance is achieved of the object. Third one is Samhara chakra, where you are completely destroying the objective principle that you have projected out. So you are taking it back. Then comes the Bhashya and Nirakya. Bhashya chakra is basically you are dissolving it. You are dissolving it completely, and the object, whatever that you have projected out, has become part of you again. Then comes the Niraki chakra. Niraki chakra is the transition state because you are going to do the projection again. So the stage prior to the projection of the objective reality is called as Nirakya, which is also called as pure illumination, Bhashya and Nirakya. So Nirakya can be translated to indeterminate state, while Bhashya Avastha or Bhasa Avastha is told to be pure illuminated state. So how to practice this? Okay, this is an advanced practice. How to practice this? For example, you're closing your eyes. You are thinking about an object. Let us say a pen or a phone. Okay. So the very first impulse to think the phone, the object, comes the Srishti chakra. Okay. Now the Sthiti chakra. Now within Sthiti chakra, you are thinking about the details of the phone. It's an Android phone. It's a Samsung or a Micromax, or it can be an iPhone, whatever it is. And now you're thinking about the features of the phone, the camera, what is the pixel density, and what is the interface. These all comes under the Sthiti chakra only. You are sustaining the awareness of the object. This is a knowledge principle. Now comes the Samhara chakra, where you are completely obliterating the thought of home. Okay, so that is Samhara chakra, and then you will dissolve it with. So it is dissolving within the consciousness. We are not aware of this. The point is to become aware of these 3 states. Okay, now we are going to think about another object. The second object is going to be a cat or a pen, right? Okay, so you should also become aware of the transition state where your mind is thinking about pen, how it is jumping from the thought of a phone and it is jumping to a thought of a pen or a cat. This transition state is the Nirakya Avastha. The Bhashya Avastha is understanding that all these are a reflection of our own self, becoming aware of all the 5 states simultaneously. This is the pure illuminated state of the Bhashya Avastha. So, Kala Sankarshini exists in these 5 forms. So, these 5 chakras are the ones mentioned as Vyomeshwari, Kechari, Gochari, Dikchari, and Bhuchari. Are you able to understand the sophistication and the complexity within these exercises? Okay, this is like Franz Bardon's initiation into Hermetics in steroids. That's what I have to tell you. So, yeah.
Mysticism and philosophy and metaphysics all in one go.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to swallow for a lot of people. And please proceed.
Okay, and again, when coming to these 12 Kalis, so I have to again talk about this. I think we didn't record that part. You were asking about Dakshinakali, right, Alex?
Yes, I was.
So Dakshinakali is basically worshipped in Bengal area, West Bengal especially. Now Bengal is in turmoil. That's a different story. So it was initially called as Kaligata. The capital city of West Bengal is Kolkata. It is called as Kaligata. Means the gut of Kali, where Kali is worshipped, the mountain of Kali, etc. Because the worship of Kali is more prominent there. In South India, the same 5 principles are worshipped in a different way. We call it as Rurujit, Dakshajit, Darugajit, Raktakali, Shakti Bhairavi. These 5 forms are worshipped in South India. So again, I have not put this in my book. The concepts are same, only the terminology is different. Okay. So yeah, coming back to that, if you look at Dakshinakali yantra, and Kenneth Grant has tried to decode the yantra, saying that these are the end of all the kalas, etc. So yeah, coming back to that, you can see 5 triangles, concentric triangles in Dakshinakali yantra with one single dot in the middle, that is the bindu. So 5 into 3 constitute 15. And the bindu constitutes 16. This is the entirety of kala, that is the 16 kalas. When I was explaining the 4 states of consciousness, like Jagrad, Sopna, Sushupti, Turiya Avastha, I have mentioned 4 variations in these 4 states of consciousness. And finally, I'm talking about the 16 states of awareness. Okay, the 16 states of awareness. So the 16 states of awareness is what this Dakshinakali represents through
represented in the yantra of Dakshinakali.
Yeah. And again, coming back to this, these 5 chakras or the 5 wheels that I mentioned right now, Vasya, Nirakya, Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara chakras, or the 5 forms of Kali that I mentioned, they exist in 3 different states. So these 3 different states are from, what can I say, from the point of subjectivity, cognition, and objectivity. Subject, process of cognition, and object. So it exists in these 5 states. So the Srishti of the, the emanation from the, with respect to the subjective principle, the sustenance with respect to the subjective principle. Are you getting the point? Mm-hmm. So there are variations. There is overlapping of these principles within the 5 states or the 5 chakras that I mentioned. So that constitute again what 5 into 3 is 15. So Aleister Crowley and the Hidden Goddess has not answered this question properly, but now I am talking about this in this video. Whether the, you know what, he has written Cults of Shadow, he has written The Mao Zone, Aleister Crowley and the Hidden Goddess. So nowhere you can see.
Dimensional.
Yeah.
Crowley's take on the entirety of the practice is one-dimensional. And I don't mean this is a critique of Crowley. I know a lot of people who respect Crowley, but yeah, there again, you know, there is a difference between the study of the mind and the study of how the mind is a mind. And what I'm trying to say here is the Western attempts at the forays of understanding transcendentalism is like a human being trying to study the mind. In the systems that are proposed, as you have detailed just now, it is the individual studying the mind in awareness that the mind is mind, if you get what I mean. So there is a layers upon layers upon layers of complexity that is mixed out, because there's just, you know, in the Western sense, it's just, there's this and then there's this. But here we have this system where one thing points to another, is complicated by this other, is supplemented by this other, and so on and so on and so forth. And a lot of people are wondering, why do you have to make it so complicated? And the short answer to that is this: the mind is complicated. And if you do not understand the complexity of the mind, then you are not the master of mind. So anywho, please proceed.
Exactly. So I have come a long way from first and second steps of Bardon. I'm talking about the complexities within the training of awareness in Bhairavite tradition. And I have told you how the first two exercises that I mentioned, Ajaba Gayatri and Chakrodaya, can help you. But from Chakrodaya only we came up to here. I'm trying to say that these deities are a representation of awareness itself, different transcendent state of awareness. So that's what I'm telling you. And again, yeah, I've talked about these 15, 16 colors and the 16 states of awareness that I have mentioned in my book. Again, coming back to the phonematic emanation, how this is related to phonemes. So that is also awareness, right? So when we are talking about these 16 phases of awareness, we have 16 vowels from A to Aha. So we have 16 vowels in Devanagari, Sanskrit. So these 16 vowels corresponds to these 16 phases of awareness. Okay, so that is why if you look at see, there is a classical treatise known as Jayadratha Yamala. Jayadratha Yamala. This is a very rare book. One of the the Oriental Library of India and the Archive Library, they have come up with a plan to digitalize all the manuscripts. So through this, we can access all the manuscripts, handwritten manuscripts. So those who can understand these manuscripts can easily decode it. So Jayadratha Yamala, I had a digitalized version of this manuscript and I went through that. They are talking about 360 Kalis. That's a different thing. I'm not going into it entirely. 360 Kalis, and they are talking about Kala Sankarshini. So this Kala Sankarshini has a mantra with 16 syllables. Okay, 16 syllables. She is also called as Panjapindanada. Panjapinda means 5 pindas. Okay, pinda means you can say a microcosm or whatever it is. Pinda, you can take like that, a microcosmos. So Panjapinda means 5 cosmos. That again corresponds to the 5 wheels. Okay, these are all achieved by pure awareness only. So that is why I have mentioned in my book that the Paratida or the Kala Sankarshini is not a concrete principle, it's an abstract principle. So she has 2 forms. One is Nirguna Rupa and another one is Saguna Rupa. Nirguna means without any gunas, means she is above the gunas. That doesn't mean that she doesn't have any properties. She is above all the known concrete properties.
Essentially, that which is beyond conceptualization or definition. Unlimited.
Exactly.
Unlimited. Nirguna is erroneously translated sometimes in the older Occidental in the older Occidental texts as without clothing or naked or pure, but that nirguna is beyond limitation, beyond classification.
Exactly. One of the definitions for nirguna in Advaita Vedanta thought given by people like Shankara or Yamunacharya. Yamunacharya is a Vaishnava.
Acharya, for you guys, in the West, who are more familiar. It's Adi Shankara. He's talking about Adi Shankara.
Yeah. So Adi Shankara. So when they are talking about this nirguna, they have mentioned that I have mentioned sattva guna and sattva, rajas and tamo guna in my work. So how the ahankara with the help of sattva, rajas and tamas creates the other principles. Okay, then Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha happens, and then you have the 5 sense organs, 5 Karmendriya and Jnanendriya, organs of action, and then comes finally the elemental, the 5 elements. Okay, so I have mentioned this in detail. So what Adi Shankara and Yamunacharya mentions is that Nirguna means Gunatida, beyond Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas, because they are the one who creates these 3 gunas. So they are always beyond this. They are superior. They are not subjected to their creation. You are getting the point. So they are not, what to say, they are the supreme ones which create these gunas. So they cannot be
limited by
defined. Yeah, defined in terms of these gunas. They cannot be defined in terms of these gunas. That is what they are mentioning. Gunatida. So Gunarahida. These are the terms that we use. So Kala Sankarshini has Saguna form and Nirguna form, because you need to understand that freedom from creation is also, it also should imply freedom to create, right? So freedom from creation is freedom to create. That is the absolute sovereignty or autonomous nature. So freedom to create, then they exhibit as the gunas itself. So this is how, these are all contemplations, inner contemplations that we are doing. So in order to achieve a certain amount of success in all these training, the Ajaba Gayatri and Chakrodaya is very, very important, because that is the foundational training. How surgery, anatomy is the foundation principle for surgery. This is how I can say it easily.
It's more like what appears as a simple practice of controlling the mind. The deeper that you actually look into it, you begin to realize that it is not just an attempt to control the mind, it's an attempt to understand reality as it is understood. It's a cosmology. So again, I suppose that we will have viewers who are familiar with philosophy. And in philosophy, we have this obsession with understanding how the mind works, how we view reality, how we view everyone else, how we view everything else, or how we experience God. And it becomes more complicated in that there is a dichotomy in the West of what God is supposed to be. And when we say God, we don't mean religious God, but the idea of this transcendental being. So the West has always attempted to define God. Meanwhile, the systems that are being discussed here is not a definition of God. It is everything which the divine is not. It might seem confusing at first, this negation of sorts, but you cannot have a thing which is absolute if the thing which is absolute can be defined. If you define the absolute, it is no longer absolute. But here's the question. I want to push back to what Dr. Ram was saying earlier, in that you have the state of being which is beyond definition, but at the same time, this state of being is responsible for and found in all of those things which precipitate creation. So how can it be that it is undefinable, but at the same time it is defined? In simplistic terms, when it takes form in the limitation of the consciousness of whoever perceives the consciousness, it can be us humans, animals, plants, whatever. When it is perceived, it takes form. But the perception does not limit it. It is only our way of understanding it. This is far more complicated than it seems. My attempts cannot even begin to do it justice, but I hope that for a Western audience, you begin to have a feel that this is a phenomenology, similar to how the philosopher William Frederick Hegel committed to the phenomenology of spirit, where he tried to define how thoughts are precipitated. So here, we're not just defining thoughts as a philosophy. We're defining thoughts as a reality, both immediate and transcendental. Doctor, please proceed.
Yeah, you are a lifesaver, Alex. I have to repeat it again.
You are a genius, so you know.
Okay, I'm flattered. Anyway, yeah, coming back to the topic. See, I'm going to continue from what you said. Bardon has explained about a method to achieve union with the God. So he is asking us to imagine a God form like Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra. So these can be a very good exercise, and it can be a starting point. So that is why when Abhinav Gupta opens his Tantra Sara, he basically mentions that Swa Atma Prakasha Rupa. So in my work, I have repeatedly said that which sheds light on itself. God is the nature of the self. That means it is a self which sheds light on itself. So that is why I used the term self-aware consciousness. You might have read that term repeatedly in my work. Self-aware consciousness.
Yes, the self-aware consciousness.
Yeah. So this is the term that I can think of in Western language, which is as close to the description of Bhairava or Swatma Prakasha Rupa.
I can do you one better.
Yeah.
In the Old Testament, Moses, when he climbs up Mount Sinai, he asks the voice in the mountain, who takes on a myriad of forms, a pillar of fire, a gust of air, a burning bush. He asks that thing, "Who are you?" And that thing replies, "I am that I am."
Yeah, I am that I am. That is even Master Chokox repeatedly talks about that.
Yes.
So, yeah, that is true. So see, that is the problem with this tradition. When we are following a dualistic tradition, even Bardon's techniques are somewhat dualistic in nature. So from a Christian perspective, for a Westerner, a Christian perspective, or a Muslim who is considering Allah as an external divine being which is above, which is controlling everything. So when we come to these things, even a practitioner of left-hand path, even they consider whether it is an anti-cosmic Satanism or the traditional Satanism, or much more better understanding of the LHP like Grant or others, they're considering an external being, and they are taking a form saying that their teachings are coming to this point where there is an external being, we are communicating with it, we are initially isolated from it, and then we are achieving an overlap, and we are finally achieving the union, becoming the entity or the deity or the God form itself. So this is not how we approach God.
There is no separation. There is
Yeah.
no.
So initially we are talking, there is no, that is why the term Jivanmukti is used. We are not talking about.
I have not heard about that term in a long time. I love that term.
Yeah. So so if you come to India and you ask somebody, they will say, "What do you want?" He will say, "Ultimately, I want mukti." Mukti is they are thinking that it is a freedom from the cycle of rebirth, reincarnation, etc. But Shaivite take it into a different level, saying Jivan Mukti, liberation while alive.
Jivanmuktis, according to limited translations, will be immortals. That's in so many words, immortals. But what it really means is an individual who has attained oneness with the undefinable or the absolute while they are still alive.
Yeah.
Some people will call them saints, some people will call them mystics, some people will, they have many names for it, but essentially a Jivanmukt is an individual who has understood themselves in
self-realized individuals, self-realized
in relation to everything else. Exactly.
Yeah. This is also the definition of yogi as well. One who has achieved yoga is basically one who has realized the nature of self. So these terms are translated or misrepresented in a very bad manner in the West. Even those people who are writing books in English language, I am talking about the Indians who are writing these things, they are also using the same terminologies, which can be highly misleading. So that's why this Jivan Mukti concept came into being. So because the yogi has realized his own self. So here, the undefinable aspect. So that is why when Abhinav Gupta is talking about Swatma Prakash Rupa, he has mentioned that God cannot be objectified. God is the agent of creation. He is the one who manifests the object, or he is the agent of manifestation of the objects. So it cannot be objectified. So fire cannot be burned. It is the agent of burning. You're getting, the fire is the agent of illumination. It cannot be illuminated. You cannot subject fire to burning, or you cannot subject fire to illumination. So it is the fire or the light which illuminates. So this is the nature of the self. This is the nature of the God that he is mentioning. Okay, so that is why how to understand that this is divine reality. Again, I have to quote a certain, there is a certain sloka or a verse in Bhagavad Gita which says, Devi Yesha Gunamai Mama Maya Durastayaka Mamegam Hi Prapadyante, like that is mentioning. Means Devi Yesha Gunamai, the divine Maya, which is Gunamai, means it is filled with the gunas, that is Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. The Maya, which is the substratum for these three gunas, is also divine in nature. How you can conquer this? By understanding that this is also part of the self. This is also a nature of yourself. This is also divine. So Abhinav Gupta again talks about this concept. He's saying that I'm not able to recall the verses. I will paraphrase them. I will tell that I don't have to do any pujas or ritualistic worship for Mother Goddess in external forms. What is not her own nature? What is not her own nature? So,
yes.
Yeah. So every word, every action, every thoughts that arise, it abides and takes repose in her own consciousness, in her own awareness. So whenever I'm talking, that the words that I'm speaking right now arise from Bhairava only.
Tell me what is not God.
Yeah, everything is God. When you understand this reality, there is no more distinction between spirituality and materialism. You're getting the point. It is a very
It's,
holistic approach towards the spiritual sciences.
it's this dichotomy between that there must be a separation between the flesh, which is a prison, and the spirit, which is freedom from the prison, which is itself a prison. Because how else can we, and this I would love for our audience after the podcast to consider this very well. Look at your state of being now. You are here with us, talking to us, listening to us, understanding what we're saying. And you're here because you're trying to understand what it is that you want to achieve in life. But how would you have been able to be with us now, to listen to these words now, to understand these things now, had it not been for your mind encased in your skull that is a byproduct of your body, which is made of flesh, blood, and bone, imbued by spirit? If the spirit and is the ultimate form, and we strip away the flesh because the flesh is a prison, you wouldn't be here now, and you wouldn't be understanding any of these things. No, we have to redo the perception of how things are viewed. The flesh is not a prison. It also is divine. There is not anything in nature that is not of God. And beyond that, there is not anything that is which is not God.
Exactly. So he's your articulation of words are better than me when it comes to this. Okay. So especially while explaining these concepts to the Western world, you are doing a great job. And
Thank you. Thank you.
again, see, so coming back to this again, I'm talking about these upayas in my book. There are you have this Anavopaya, then Shaktopaya, then Shambhavopaya, then Anupaya. So Shambhavopaya and Anupaya is considered to be the highest of the upayas to understand the nature of the self. So Shaktopaya is mainly use of mantras. You are going to meditate on the uh, tenets and the mantras like frame, home, dream, etc. I'm not going into that. And then Anavapaya is basically doing the outside external worship and concentrating on certain parts of the body. You're getting the point. It comes, everything is included in this mudra or meditation on the external
Mudras,
objects.
yoga, yes,
Everything
anything that
comes
involves
into
the
this.
body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you are going to meditate on a concrete form of the deity which is outside yourself. These all things comes under Anavapaya.
Murtis. Yeah.
Yeah.
Murtis.
Idols. And then then you are coming to the Shambhavopaya. Shambhava means Shiva, the Upaya of Shiva himself. Here you are going to become aware of your own self. So this awareness is not something from a Western perspective, as Alex told before. So you are becoming aware of the object outside your body. So Bardon is talking about transferring the consciousness in the external objects, etc. But the simplistic way to explain this is you are becoming and aware of the object outside yourself. After a certain amount of this practice, you will understand, or you will, you know what, the awareness becomes as such, you will feel the object as part of your own self. Okay, these are mentioned by Bardon as well. So you will feel like that. And then, so this is a gross amount of, so this comes under, from a Shaivite practice, this comes under the Jagrad Avastha, where you are becoming completely involved with the external object. This is kind of an inferior type of awareness that we talk about. So later what happens is the awareness which is oriented towards the object is what to say, drawn inwards. Now it is not external, it is internal. It is a movement towards internal. A dynamic inner awareness is being developed. So with this inner awareness, you become aware that you are the divine in its complete.
To make this more accessible to everybody else. Consider this in consider the biological sense of things. As a human body, we are not aware that we breathe. We are not aware that we digest our food. We are not aware of the blood that flows in our veins, or how the oxygen that we take into our lungs is processed by the cells in the lungs, and so on and so forth. We are not aware of all of these things that are going on in our body, but they're going on nevertheless. Whether we are asleep or awake, they're happening. When you become aware of the self, not in the conventional Western sense, but in the Eastern esoteric sense, you understand that you are not just the food that you eat, the water that you drink, the media that you consume, the books that you read, the knowledge that you have. You're all of these things going on simultaneously. But to be aware of that is still to be stuck in the idea that you're still this self. To step beyond that, let's take it even deeper. Now you're aware that there's a lot of things going on around you. Okay, now you're aware of that. And then immediately you come to the realization, wait, this is also happening everywhere around me. It's going on in nature. And then you'll become aware that this is happening to every animal, every plant. And then forward, even forward, this is happening to the ecosystem. The rivers are veins, the rocks are bone, the sky is oxygen, and so on and so forth. That's an even bigger awareness. But you can only be so aware of the outside until you begin to realize, wait, stop. This is all going on out there. I've had enough of out there. What's in me? What is there left outside of all of this that I already know? And so like an adult, you know, if you are an adult and you've had your fill of adult life, you've had your fill of work, you've had your fill of careers, you have your fill of relationships and whatnot, where does an adult go to when they have had enough of everything that life throws at them? They go back to their parents. They go back to their home. They go back to their hometown, to their old friends, to where they belong. And where do you belong? Where does everyone belong? We go back in. We go back inside. And when we're back inside, we realize that's the reason why I am aware of these things, why all of these things are going on inside of me, why all of these things are going on in nature, in animals, in everything that lives, because everything is God. To collapse back into the origin of all types of self is to return, to use a Krishna consciousness quote, to return to Godhead. That's what they're saying when they say to return to Godhead.
Exactly.
You begin to realize that, you know, everything is God. Doctor, please proceed.
Yeah. So when the awareness is totally internalized, we realize at some point of time, it's a spontaneous realization for some, but we realize that the nature of the self is God. So to understand the nature of the self is God, I don't mean to say God in a traditional Western sense again. Okay, so we realize that the object arises from the subject alone. It arises, it abides, it takes repose, and it dissolves in the self alone. This is the whole point of this training with the awareness. This is the whole point of meditating on the 12 principles or the 15 principles of Kali. Are you getting the point?
Yes. This is gonna offend a lot of hardline atheists, or like, there's no way for you to prove that God is real. I don't have to prove that God is real because, you know, I'm here. You're here.
Exactly. The existence of God is self-evident. You are aware. You have consciousness. It has different states. That means the God exists. Kali is different states of awareness. So I don't have to prove that God, because you are alive. You are talking.
You're there.
Yeah.
How else can you perceive something, you know, if you are not there to perceive it? Yeah, a Buddhist koan, you know, that a lot of Western people tend to emulate a lot is, do you know the sound of one hand clapping? I'm sorry. Do you know the sound of one hand clapping? Or better yet, if a tree, you know, falls in a forest and nobody is there to hear it, will it make a sound? The answer is yes and no. It makes a sound because it is there and it is existent. But if nobody perceives that it makes a sound, what purpose does it serve?
Exactly. So we understand that the object is a manifestation of the subject. So what exactly I mean by this? As you have said, everything is a manifestation of God. So whatever the actions that I perform, whatever the words that I talk, the words that I'm talking are based on the syllables, which are basically phonemes, which is basically one with Shabda Brahman, and Shabda Brahman is goddess. Okay. So that is one thing. So every actions that I'm doing is preceded by a will aspect, a knowledge aspect, and then it culminates into an aspect action. That is the Icha Jnana and Kriya. So this is also a faculty of God. Okay, this is also a faculty of God. So this is Karma Yoga in Shaivite. philosophy. Karma yoga means every action that you're doing is a reflection of Godhead, and the Godhead is the self. So this is the
Speaking of karma yoga, this is interesting because in the West, and I suppose that the reason why the division, exists, and I do believe that the divisions are necessary. So the yogas are defined as jnana yoga, karma yoga, bhakti yoga, raja yoga. So these are separations. Now, a lot of people, they some anthropologists, I am not in agreement with them, of course, but they say that the separation of these specific yogas. Oh, and also there's Kriya Yoga. I'm sorry, I forgot about
Kriya Yoga is there. Kriya Yoga is Yogananda Paramahamsa. He is the one who propounded it.
Yes, he's the one who, yeah.
Let us not go into those things.
No. But the separation, supposedly, according to some anthropologists, is because there was a caste and a gotra system in India back. That's their explanation. But think about this, and I want to posit this to our Western audience. The yogas related to the mind, related to the actions, related to devotion, and related to unification. Why is it designed that way? The mind, the action, devotion, unification. It's probably because they're not separate. It's probably because it's a step-by-step process that you can integrate into your everyday life. Consider that.
Yeah. So this is exactly what is called as karma yoga in Bhairavite practices or in Shaivite philosophy. Okay, so it differs in Patanjali yoga. It differs, and even if you look at the Achintya Beda school, that is ISKCON currently, it differs. For example, Bhakti yoga and Karma yoga is basically doing pujas, rituals,
yes. Worship, and kirtan and all of that.
All of this, but we consider it in a different manner, like how I explained right now. So Jnana Yoga is basically Jnana of the own self. That is the knowledge of the self is Jnana Yoga. That to understand that everything is manifestation of a God is Jnana Yoga. That is how Shaivite philosophy explains it. So let us keep it aside. So again, so now I think the audience get an idea of the importance of these exercises. So finally, the Shambhava Upaya and the Anupaya is also developing the inner awareness, which is intended by the first two exercises of Franz Bardon. Are you getting the point here?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, this is I can still keep on talking. Again, when I come to the 16 kalas or the 16 syllable vidyas, I can explain how this is correlated to awareness. But I think you get the point.
Absolutely. So, what I also want to cover on this call, if you have time, is I'd love to. One thing we talked about before the call, maybe during the very beginning, was the idea of like there's at least 3 techniques that were used in Eastern methodologies that help with the facilitation of the accelerated facilitation of the concentration of the mind, not in the sense of depth or understanding or as a path of self-actualization as presented here, but more or less just like a stepping stone, a corner, if you will, that can be taken with pranayama or with mudras or the like. What were those? Do you mind?
There was the mantras, vocalizations using syllables, words, sounds, and then there's mudras, which is to be tied. I mean, mudras essentially are hand forms or locks, if you will. Yes. But it's not. It's more than just hand forms. It's establishing your presence in the present. Like when you touch someone, you feel that they're there. They feel that you're there. You're establishing yourself in the present. And then, of course, there's pranayama, which is the breathing exercises. All of these are tied into, believe it or not, science, psychology. When we breathe, we center ourselves. When we touch something, ourselves or other people, we center ourselves. When we talk, we center ourselves. These are tricks, if you will, that help the mind to focus, not on all of the wandering thoughts. So I think what Jake is trying to say here, Doctor, is I know that this is it's not good form to do so, but let's step aside from the established system for a bit, and let's say we're trying to teach toddlers how to still their mind so that they can start at least from there. How would they be able to do that? Through either mantra, mudra, or pranayama.
Okay, so mantra, mudra, pranayama. Okay, fine. So traditionally, mantras are used as a point for concentration. Now, what I want to tell is there is a certain meditation which was designed by Master Chok Oksui again in Ahatikyogi, meditation on twin hearts.
Twin
Okay.
flame meditation, I think it's called
Yeah.
where I am, but twin hearts where you're at. Yeah.
Yeah, meditation on twin hearts. So one is the crown and the heart. I'm not going in depth. In that meditation, there is a specific technique which is used to concentrate. Here, we will chant Om repeatedly. Okay, we will chant repeatedly, and we will become aware of the gap between Om, two Om sounds. Okay, so I'm chanting Om. Then again, I'm chanting Om again. Okay, if you can chant it in a prolonged manner or in a short manner. So within that gap between two Oms, there is stillness. This is what he says. There is stillness. And if we concentrate on that stillness, if we center ourselves on that stillness, there is a profound awareness. So this is a starting point that what a novice can use. This technique can be used by a novice. Okay, this is something that I have used as well. So again, in traditional Shaivism, in doctrines of Shaivism, these 51 phonemes are not, even though we practice it in a successive manner, or we consider it to have evolved successively, since there is no concept of space and time there, it has been emanated in a simultaneous manner, or it has existed from the beginning itself. It doesn't have a start point and an end point. For our convenience, we are saying like that. So these sounds are Shakti, and the gap between these sounds are Shiva. There is a concept like that. So what does he mean by that? Shiva is profound awareness. You're getting the point, right? And the ability of the awareness to objectify is Shakti. Okay.
To some people, they will probably term it as the Purusha and the Prakriti. It's the same thing.
Yeah, Purusha Prakriti. Yeah, Purusha Prakriti is a Sankhya thought which has been taken by Shaivites as well.
Yes.
But the Purusha and Prakriti, according to Shaivite thought, is not the supreme self. It is
Yes.
called as the Alpaham, the lower self, or the empirical individual like us, who is unaware of the nature of the self. Okay, so this is the what to say? Yeah, Purusha Prakriti Tattva. So this is one way, chanting the mantras and becoming aware of the gap between the interval, or becoming aware in the interval of the two sounds. So that is one way a beginner can practice. And pranayama, there are different types of pranayama. If you go to Patanjali Yoga Sutra or Geranda Samhita, they have mentioned a lot of pranayamas. You don't have to complicate it like that. Just you can do a simple breathing. First,
Yes.
yeah, become aware of the breathing process. Like you have said, we are not aware of the breathing process, but once we become aware of the breathing, we center ourselves. That is the ultimate truth. Okay, you just watch. A watchful breathing itself is enough in the initial stage.
It's more than enough. Just the in, the out, the in, the out. And in between the in and the out, you will notice stillness.
This is what Chakrodaya is. What you said right now is Chakrodaya. This is the whole point of Chakrodaya and Ajaba Gayatri that I mentioned. You are not going to chant Hamsa. You are going to naturally let the Hamsa sound arise within you.
Yes.
So this is, a novice can practice this as well. This is, believe me, once you start practicing this, you may not find any results within a day or two or within a couple of weeks. But after months, wait for 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, you will definitely have results. Trust me on this.
Or better yet, don't wait for results. Just do it.
Yeah. Everyone is oriented towards results. That's the problem.
Yeah, I know. But
yeah,
don't wait for results. Just do it. And, you'll see.
Yeah. Even
Also,
in the 5, what to say, the dharana with the tanmatras, okay, I'm not going into like that. Okay, the meditation of the 5 elements, that is the earth, water, fire, etc. Bardon is talking about what meditation on these principles. So these tattvic meditations also exist in Shaivite practices, which I have mentioned in my practical part. So the whole point of this is, I have mentioned that these 5 aspects are there within the consciousness, or these are the 5 aspects of the nature of the consciousness. Okay, the 5 chakras that I mentioned, Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Bhashya, Nirakya, Avastha. This is correlated to the 5 powers of Shiva, the pentacephalic Shiva. That is Chitananda, Ichanyana, and Kriya. So these 5 elements are manifestation of these 5 principles of the self-aware consciousness, or these 5 attributes. So meditating on these 5 elements again is an attempt to realize these 5 principles within ourselves. But when we are projecting the fire principle outside, or when you are projecting the wind element or the air element outside, we are understanding that the external and the internal are the same. And this is finally tied to the attributes, the 5 attributes of the god. This is how we Shaivites look at this. Okay, but when it comes to description of Bardon, it is going to a situation where it becomes like the last airbender.
Become the avatar. Master all 4 or 5 in this case elements.
Yeah. So this is how some of the students in the West are perceiving this. This is not the point of these exercises. So the entire point of these exercises or these practices is to realize that the physical world, which is made of these 5 elements, are a direct manifestation of those 5 principles. And we are also made of the Panchamahabhutas.
Yes.
So we are also a direct manifestation of the God itself. The God itself has manifested, concretized itself as the physical world and humans.
And let's make it like I'm going to spill the beans, if you will, Ram, just so everybody's going to be their brains are going to explode with this. Okay, so the basic mantra of Shaivism is Om Namah Shivaya. They call it Pancha Chakra mantra, the 5-syllable mantra. And this is representative of the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are, earth, fire, wind, water, heart, call, captain, planet. I'm joking. It's space, akasha, ether. Okay. So you breathe in air. You have air inside you. Your bones are made of minerals. That's earth. Your blood has water in it. In fact, the body was that 60% water? Was it? I'm sorry. I'm not a medical doctor. 60% water?
70
thereabouts. Yeah. 60-70% water. And then you are essentially a spiritual entity experiencing itself in physical form. So you're a spirit encased in flesh. And what else is there? Earth, fire, wind. Yeah, that's it. You are the 5 elements. You're not gonna go out there and call these things to master them, like Ang.
Yeah. So that's why in Siddhanta Shaivism, even though the descriptions of the 5 elements as Namah Shivaya exist, in Shaivite doctrines, whether it is in Siddhanta Shaivism or in non-dual Shaivism like Triga, etc., the Namah Shivaya is tied to the 5 phases of Shiva, which represents the 5 powers of Shiva.
Whoa.
Oh, could just roast for a little bit.
Just when it was getting good. Please hold, ladies and gentlemen. We may be having some technical difficulties.
Yeah, we're waiting for Shreeram to get back on. Do you want to recap a bit what he was talking about, Alex?
Beg your pardon?
Would you mind recapping a little bit?
Yes, absolutely. So, at least from the tradition of Shaivism that I have been initiated to, it's established that the Panchachakra mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, 5-syllable mantra, is representative of the 5 elements. Now, this is the most oft repeated mantra in my school of Shaivism, and it is also the universal mantra of all Shaivism, essentially. When you translate Om Namah Shivaya, it literally just means praise to Shiva, right? But when he's
I'm sorry, guys. Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Yeah. Do you mind finishing, Alex?
Yeah. So
recap.
When you translate Om Namah Shivaya, just straight up, it just says Om, praise to the name of Shiva. Nama, name, Shiva, Shiva. So praise to the name of Shiva. That's it. But if you separate it into its esoteric meanings, then it supposedly represents 5 elements. Now, some people will say that these representations of 5 elements, their main goal supposedly is to turn one into an avaduta, like a master of the elements sort of thing. It's wizardry, black magic. But we've established in a prior conversation, in the prior podcast, that black magic ain't real, folks. What it is a philosophy. And that philosophy is the cultivation of the self-awareness that you are a byproduct of all of these 5 elements, just like everything else in the world is. You are not separate from the world. You are of the world, in the world, and are the world. It's just philosophy. It's not black magic, it's philosophy. So the next time when you're doing a circle and you're calling down Baphomet and your mother walks in and says, Jonathan, what are you doing? It's not Satanism, Mom. It's philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. So, like I mentioned, I have also put the practice of Namah Shivaya in its proper form from the classical works in my work. So Namah Shivaya basically represents the 5 forms of Shiva or the 5 heads. That is Ishana Murdali, Tatpurusha Vaktraya, then Agora Hridayaya, Vamadeva Guhyaya, Sadyojada Murtane. So this is the mention. This is also a Vedic mantra. So Ishana represents the Chit Shakti and Ya. In Namah Shivaya it is Ya. Okay, then Tatpurusha Vaktraya. So that represents Va. Tatpurusha Vaktraya is Ananda Shakti. Then Agora is, some people say it is Kriya Shakti, but we consider it to be Icha Shakti. Icha. That is she. There are the syllable she. So Na and Ma represents Sadyojada and Vamadeva respectively. So that is the Sadyojada is the Kriya Shakti or the action, and the Jnana Shakti goes to Vamadeva. Why Vamadeva is Jnana Shakti? And I have told you the creative principle, because it also helps to sustain. The Jnana is the Jnana of the objective, the multitudes of the objects. That is nothing but the 36 tattvas of the cosmos itself that exist. So anyway, people who are interested can, if they buy my book, they will be able to see all these things. I put it in.
He does signings. Get it?
Yeah. Okay. So again, it all comes to the awareness only. Are you getting the point here? So
Yes.
It all goes back to the Ajaba Gayatri and Chakrodaya, and again going back to the first 2 steps of Franz Bardon, developing the inner awareness. That's all this is about.
So I know we've been we've talked philosophy, metaphysics, transcendental everything, theology in our lengthy. This is one of the meatiest discussions that we've had so far. So this is why we love you as a guest. You always deliver the heavy blows. But to individuals who are like, oh my God, this is such a headache. I cannot absorb so much. I didn't even graduate elementary school. I know I didn't. I actually have not graduated kindergarten yet. So I am dumb, and I wanna do this, but I am dumb. How do I do this? So there are tricks like what Dr. Ram has detailed: the sounds, the breathing, and the presence of self. So let's say I can't do Om because I'm a non-denominational Christian Wiccan whatever from Nebraska. Okay, you don't have to do Om. You don't even have to make a sound, because when you breathe in and you breathe out, you are making a sound. Be conscious of that. That's sound. And then the breathing exercise in and of itself already fulfills itself. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Wash in, wash off. Very good, Daniel-san. Now, the middle between the wash in and wash off, that is where you have to focus. Exactly. That is where true Kung Fu is. And then finally, you're sitting down, or you're probably levitating. I don't know. If you're Dua Lipa, then you're levitating. I know I would like to levitate. But your presence of self in wherever you are, in however you're situated, whether you're sitting down, lying down, whatever, that generates a feeling. I'm in my chair right now. This generates a feeling. I can feel that. I am grounded to my seat. So if I breathe in and breathe out, and I acknowledge the sound of my breathing, and the spaces between my breathing, and the cadence of my breathing, I am already doing Franz Bardon's activity part 1.
Excellent.
It's that simple. I know that it may seem trivial, but we are trying to make this as simple as we can for everybody, so that you don't have to have a degree in comparative religious studies. You don't have to apprentice yourself to Darth Sidious. You don't even have to believe in the lies of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Just breathe.
Exactly. So Another exercise, I don't think I put this in my book. No, I am not. It is called as Vyoma Mudra. Vyoma means Akasha. Akasha in the sense it is Chitagasha, not the ether that Bardon is mentioning. It is a ultimate subjectivity. So how to practice this? Again, this is very easy. Okay, this is a Shaivite exercise. So you have to lie down in a supine position. I think people can understand what supine means.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay. You have to lie down in a supine position and you have to do nothing, but you should try not to move your body. That's it. When you're not moving your body, when your body is still, your mind tend to become still. You will have these train of thoughts coming to you, but eventually after practice, it will stop. It will come to a halt. Eventually, the amount of thoughts that comes through your mind, it will reduce and then it will stop. And then you will reach that state of mind. But make sure you don't move your body.
And make sure you don't fall asleep. That's also part of the exercise.
Exactly. I was coming to this. So people may tend to fall asleep. So they have to use their will, inner awareness, not to fall asleep. See, practicing this exercise, our body may fall asleep. Eventually, our awareness won't. You're getting the point. We may feel like corpse, but our awareness will still be there after prolonged practice. So in this awareness, this is called as Vyoma Mudra. We will spontaneously realize the nature of the self. Nature of the self in the sense that profound inner awareness will rise up spontaneously after a certain amount of practice. So this is also the audience can do, but do the basic elementary exercises that I mentioned, and then you come to this, you will definitely understand what it is. I'm not going to talk about the results. Just do it. You will just understand what. Yeah. You will know. You will come to know all by yourself.
We are not sponsored by Nike, but just do it.
Yeah.
Nike, please sponsor us.
It's good to get a sponsor from
Nike.
Yes. Yeah. So yeah, so that's it. So Alexei, do you want me to elaborate on any other concept?
We've covered parts 1 and part 2 quite succinctly. I know, we could go to part 3, but let's not overload like people here. Let them start with part 1, part 2. Those are really the hardest bits. They require the most solid foundation. And if you have those 2 down pat, then everything else is a breeze. Now, I will say that Bardon is an A word because he starts with the hardest thing first instead of, taking it easy and then going down the hard road. But I suppose he's like that. Maybe he aspired to be some kind of Jedi master, so he has to make people suffer so that they'll learn the Force and whatever. So here's the trick to mastering the Force. Do it. And please, after you've mastered the Force, call me, come to the dark side.
Yeah, we might be waiting for you.
We have cookies.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, as you said, Bardon has not mentioned how to go on with these exercises. He has plainly said, do it. So that's the problem. So that's why I had to use Mauni Sadhu. If I have come across these Agama Shastras when I was 14 or 15, it might have been helpful. It took me only after 2 or 3 years I came across these doctrines and then I started practicing it. So anyway, you see, I think a certain sort of mental maturity is necessary to understand these principles because they are a hardcore philosophical stuff. So I think a certain amount of age is necessary to reach that emotional and mental maturity in order to assimilate these teachings, or else it's not possible. So I guess everything worked out well in the end.
Yeah.
So,
one last thing I kind of thought about too is I remember that you weren't initiated into Shaivism, I don't believe, at least externally. Like I think you're part of a Brahmin caste, am I right?
Yeah.
But I like to add that like for folks who may have access to in-person teachers or have had empowerments from other traditions, or from different Franz Bardon schools of thought that used empowerments, transmissions, Shaktipat, if you will. How would they come back to approaching the base exercises? Because a lot of people who have the empowerments, they can do the later exercises, but then they have difficulty coming back to the concentration exercises, the emptiness of mind. And thus they can't even go deep into the empowerments, transmissions that they've received or can practice as a baseline. So how can they like go deeper?
Okay. First, I have to come to the first part of the question, initiation and transmission. So what exactly do you think when it comes to initiation and transmissions? Do you really think that the guru will come and put his hand or his leg on the head, and they will pass down some sort of energy. That is not how it happens. Try to understand this first. Okay. There are different ways to do it. Okay, I will explain this. One is considering Bhairava himself as the ultimate guru. And then what you will do is that you will take the mantra by doing puja to him, consider him to be your guru. Okay, you have to do the usual puja, and then you will write it in a certain, what to say, in a metal sheet or in a leaf, palm leaf, and then you will take it as a blessing from Bhairava, and then you will start practicing the mantras. That is one thing. Another thing is that a guru will initiate you in the sense he will simply tell you the mantra in your ear. It's as simple as that. There is nothing like even whatever you have said is going on in India as well. The guru will put their hand and will transfer the Shakti. But it is nothing like that. The guru will only tell you what exactly the mantra is in your ear, and he will explain why the mantra, what is the core principle behind the mantra. For example, in Shrividya tradition, there is a mantra called as Panchadashi and Shodashi, 15 and 16 syllable mantras. And I have told in my previous talk that there are 32 syllable mantras. So I have explained what the 16 principles are, what 32 principles are. Even Kala Sangarshini in Jayadratha Yamala has 16 syllable mantras. So what exactly it is? I have explained this in detail right now. 16 states of awareness, etc., etc. So this will be explained to us by the guru.
And that's initiation, right there.
Yeah. This is what initiation really is. And then what we will do is that we will contemplate on these principles, and then we will meditate on the mantras. So if you look at later written books in India, like Mantra Mahodadi, Mantra Maharnava, these are some of the books written in a later period. Okay. So they have mentioned you have to chant it 1 lakh times, 2 lakh times, 3 lakh times. 3 lakh means it is 300,000. Okay. Yeah, 300,000, 100,000 times, or 1 million times. So this is absurd.
Can a human do that? Can a human really do that now?
So see, there are people who does that. That's a different thing. But it's absurd. It's mechanical chanting. That is, see, these are written in a manner to deviate the practitioner. This is a misdirection. That is why I told you, you need to decode these forms, and that's why you need a guru. If you look at some of the oldest classical books, you don't have a description of how many times you have to chant this mantra. They would have mentioned the mantra in a coded form. For example, you know what? Hreem is said to be Shakti Bija by a certain school. Another school calls it as Paravija. You're getting the so now they are talking about a mantra where, for example, Hreem Hum Fat. Do you know what they have mentioned? Pradhamam Shaktihi, Dvidiyam Bhairava, Tridiyam Vagni Jaya. Prathama is Shakti Bija. That's the first Bija. Second is Bhairava Bija. Third one is Vagni Jaya. This is what they have mentioned. What is the mantra? Are you getting the point?
Yes, it's code words for something deeper.
Nobody is going to understand what this is. For example, ik frame or hasak frame in certain context, ik frame that I have mentioned as Panjabandhanada mantra in my book is said to be Pidra Bhuvana Vasini. They have mentioned this word. It is much more longer than the bija itself. Pidra Bhuvana Vasini. So who is going to understand this? I am having access to these kind of textbooks, and I am going and reading it as Pidra Bhuvana Vasini. What am I going to understand it if I don't have a guidance? This is exactly why a guru is needed. This is what initiation is. When we are talking about a guru, obviously there is a lineage, there is that kind of thing is there. We are revering the person as a...
It's complicated. It gets complicated.
So this is what initiation is. First, we need to understand this. But many pseudo gurus are making a, making this into, blowing this up. Exactly. Money. I don't want to mention the names. There are several schools of Srividya and Shaivism in India which are making this as a process to make money, a way to make money. So please leave those things.
It's also, you have to understand, and I will say this to be perfectly fair, from an anthropological and sociological point of view. Initiations and ritualism are part and parcel of the human experience. They create this collectivist unity, or the idea of unity, of you being connected to something else, something greater, something outside of yourself. And this sometimes is required for the activation of certain parts of your brain that allows you to think beyond yourself. Now, 1,000 years ago, when people were much more religiously oriented, this would have been a good thing. This would have guaranteed authenticity of thought. This would have guaranteed that you would be able to trace the lineage of the thought. But fast forward to today, where even air and water, which are free resources, are marketed. Everything is marketed. So when we're talking, okay, so what about those people who have initiations? They follow these certain this and that. Can they do it? First of all, why do they have to worry about their initiations? If their initiations are so powerful, whatever it is that they do is not going to take away from whatever it is that they've learned. And if they're really concerned about learning, why are they limiting themselves to whatever initiations that they're into? Consider this from a vantage point of philosophy. Philosophers began with, materialism, the things that are here, the forms, and then they tried transcendentalism, which is the things that are beyond. And then when philosophers got tired of that, they began to do something else, deconstructionalism. They began to break down, if dog means dog, therefore it's cat, or some other variation thereof. They began to destroy the established meanings. The problem now is we are still stuck between the attempts at merging the materialist and the transcendentalist perspectives of the world. And yet here we have Dr. Ram's system, which is an ancient system, an established system that combines both the materialist and transcendentalist ideologies into something which Shiva best represents. In the Western mind, ask the average individual, what's Shiva? Aside from the occasional, the ice goddess from Final Fantasy VII, there will be people who will say, the god of destruction, the god who destroys illusion with his third eye. Yes, because we are participating in a deconstructionalist philosophy. Not magic, not ritual, philosophy. And the philosophy says this: don't care about initiation. Don't care about systems. Don't care about all of these pomp and pageantry. Just do it.
Exactly. So one more thing. In the later came textbooks of tantric practices, whether it is Shakti or Shaiva, there are certain mentionings. Apart from the number of chantings, they have also mentioned Utkilana, Shaba Vimojana, Shodhana, etc. Mantra Shodhana, Mantra Utkilana. So what exactly this is? Utkilana means there is a certain obstacle, or there is a certain limits that has been put into mantra. So in order to take the limits, you have to take another mantra, which should be given to you by a proper guru of the lineage. This is a description. And then again, Shodhana, that you have to purify the mantra before using it. Okay, so what happens is Abhinav Gupta is a. I will talk about Abhinav Gupta or Rajanaga Jayaraga repeatedly because these are the prime foundation figures in the, because they codified it in a certain way. Yeah, exactly. So Abhinav Gupta says that mantra means it is a pure state of consciousness. So why this should be purified? Are you getting the point? Why this should be purified? Why this should be chanted repeatedly? Why? So again, when he is talking about the types of Shaktipata or the transmissions, there is something called as Tivra. Tivra means it is Utkrishta Atyanta. Okay, Utkrishta Atyanta means it's the supreme most. Okay, it is the supreme most Shaktipata which directly comes from Bhairava. So again, in the commentary section, he mentions who is Bhairava, the nature of the self. So Shaktipat arises from the self. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
It is not from an external source.
Not from an external source.
Yeah.
Ironic. I mean, one would even, and a lot of people will consider this controversial, but we've done controversial here before, and we're going to keep on doing it for the lulz. You don't need an external guru. I know that that's offensive, but all learning arises from the self. Whether you have a teacher or not, eventually you will learn how to eat. Whether you have a teacher or not, you will learn how to breathe. Whether you have a teacher or not, you will learn how to speak. Because everything that you need to know is already inside you. You are already whole and entire unto yourself. Is it not a wonder that in every mystical iteration of every religious practice in the world, they always insist that the ultimate teacher is God? They don't say Alama Mahaprabhu. They don't say Muhammad. They don't say Guru Gobind Singh. They say the ultimate teacher is God. Why? Because that's all you need.
Exactly, 100%. I agree with this. So these are the descriptions from non-dual Shaivite doctrines. So the question of initiation is answered. Jake, I think the question of initiation is answered. So I don't care if they have said that they have got an initiation from a guru, they are capable of chanting the mantras, etc. As Alex has told, if their transmission is so strong, then why? There is no need to limit. There is no need to limit themselves. So, in my opinion, unless and until you control the mind, there is an inner refinement that has taken place. You are not going to understand this. When again, there is another concept called as shat karmas in these mantra practices. So people say shat karmas are like what to say. Shanti karma is there, Vidveshana karma is there, then Marana karma is there. Then again, Vidveshana means creating differences or tensions or arguments between two people. Then Uchadana is exorcism. And then, you know what, Marana karma is killing. So again, these are interpreted in a bad manner. So the person who doesn't have an inner refinement, he will try to find his enemies outside and try to kill them. He will externalize it, but he fails to understand that the ultimate enemy lies within ourselves. So when we are talking about this inner refinement, he understands ultimately that whatever that needs to be destroyed is within myself. It's not external. This is the whole point of the shat karmas, but people are using this to you know what, do black magic rituals. So this is what happens when you don't have an inner refinement. If you believe that you have a transmission of these mantras to you and you don't have the necessary inner refinement, you will only practice these shat karmas as a black magic or an external, what to say, you will objectify these principles external outside to yourself.
It
Instead of
accomplishes something, it accomplishes something, but it is not its true purpose.
Yeah, true purpose. So the ultimate purpose is to vanquish the evil within, vanquish the enemies within. Okay, that is why Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha, Mada, Malsarya all exist out inside. We need to eliminate these things. Ultimately, we need to eliminate the ignorance, vanquish the nescience that veils us from realizing who we truly are. This is the entire point of that. So this is what we are trying to achieve through initiation. So if that is not achieved, what is the purpose or point of
Exactly.
the transmission?
Some people will be like, oh, so I'm just blaring out like possible dialogues. Some people will say, so you mean to say that the initiations that are required are similar to the system that you have? Stop right there. Nobody said that it should be this system or that system or the other system or whatever system. There doesn't even need to be a system. I would like to bring again to the attention of everyone who is watching this that in spite of the fact that a lot of the terminologies that we have used in this podcast so far are socio-cultural in nature and are related to a specific socio-religious practice, they are at the core, when explained to the greater audience, philosophy. You don't need to be Shaiva or Christian or Muslim or Sikh or Jain or Buddhist in order to do whatever it is that those religions are telling you to do, because ultimately it is a philosophy. If you strip down all religions to its very core, the core of that religion is we seek communion and oneness with wherever we came from. That's it. Or
Exactly.
to make it even more simple, God is love. And what is love? Love is seeing that the immediate other is not separate from the self. You cannot love anything if you see the thing that you love as separate from you. And that's all that there is. You don't need the system. If you're an atheist, do this from a more cerebral point of view. If you're an agnostic, do this from an agnostic's point of view. If you're a Muslim, do this from a Muslim's point of view. But do it regardless, because we will all arrive at the same point.
Exactly. See, human beings evolved as social creatures, and then tribal community evolved as well as part of our evolution, which was necessary at some point of time. So when we are saying that there is no separation between us, everyone came from the same source, whether it is a stone or water or some insects or some animals and humans and your fellow humans, do we really do you think that this separatism will exist in the society once we understand the core principles of Advaita and we start applying these practices in life? Do you think racism will exist? Do you really think that everything will be gone? That is what I'm saying. In Adi Shankaracharya, there is a story about Adi Shankaracharya about you know what, when he was walking with his disciples, there will be a Chandala. Chandala means traditionally you can equate the term Chandala to a lower caste person, but it is not like that. Those people are much more of a, you know what, they are away from the urban community of those days, or they are not learned individuals, or whatever it is. You consider it to be a lower caste. When he walks towards Adi Shankaracharya, his disciples will say, Adi Shankaracharya is coming, you should move away. So Chandala will come face to face with Adi Shankaracharya and he will say, do you really think that we are separate from each other when you and myself came from the very same source and we will go back to the very same source? So this is the core principle of Advaita. Means,
I love that story, by the way.
yeah, no separation. Means, see, every one of us came from Africa. We evolved from Australopithecus. So that is one thing. So there's no point in arguing that based on color or caste or creed or religion. So when we apply this directly to our day-to-day life, this tribal mentality will be vanquished. Again, philosophy in practice, Shaivism in practice, Advaita in practice. This is the very core principle. So as you said, so then love, universal love is what comes into our mind. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, that's all there really is, ultimately. If you think about it, there's nothing else. What else is greater than love?
Exactly. So anyway, there are still many more concepts to practice, like the training with the elements, the 5 elements, and how to externalize.
We'll get to all of that in time.
Yeah, we will all go through all of it, and finally we will come to the 10th step as well, and I will talk about Shambhava Upaya and Anupaya according to that. And then we can also talk about key to the true Kubala and how it differs, or how it is somewhat similar to the classical principles of Shaivism, and how to practice the phonemes. We can touch all those things and what this means and what the compound mantras really refers to, and what are the advantages of meditating on these mantras. I have explained this in my book, and again I will explain this in brief in the upcoming podcasts that we are going to do.
There's more, guys. There's more coming. Stay tuned. This is going to last longer than Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Or Final Destination.
Or Final Destination.
Or Wrong Turn. They're creating sequels, right?
There's a sequel to the sequel, but also there will be prequels. Just wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds great. And so, for any viewers, listeners out there, feel free to comment and share what were your favorite insights, as well as share what you'd like to see explored in upcoming podcasts, especially if it's in the framework of Bardon or other frameworks, for example, or even if there's any other things you might want to touch on in a call, like any pop media references that may be meaningful, or so on and so forth. We're all well versed.
We love your feedback. We love your opinions. We love your commentary, even your violent reactions. Those are all welcome.
Yeah, even criticism is accepted, because it helps us to find the flaws within our system or within our point of view, and then we can rectify that. So
dialogue matters. Matters. That's what.
That is what. Yeah, Socratic method, right?
It's not just the Socratic method, but dialogue matters in that we acknowledge that everyone is different, so we can begin to find common ground with everybody else.
Okay. So that is what the dialogue method is. What we find. Thanks for clarifying. Okay.
Absolutely. Etymologically, dialogue is dia, meaning getting across, logos word. We're getting our words across, and we want to have a shared conception, a shared understanding, and bridge the richness of the practices Shreeram and Alex have been immersed in for decades together, in order to have more richness, resources for Western audiences, Western minds as well, who may not have grown up in these frameworks or with these terminologies. And there's just very, very subtle little shifts, like subtle shifts in terminologies and logos that can completely change the fabric and conception of your reality, how you approach your works, how you approach the world. Just one definition could change everything. One practice could be all that it takes to get you to the next level.
I'm sure there's a lot of people here who are fans of DC Comics. There is a recent, growing interest in how all it takes is one bad day to make someone into the Joker. We propose an alternative. All it takes is one shift in perspective to make you think that you're separate from everybody else, into realizing that you are not alone. And for a world that is so connected and yet so distant from each other, that's all we really need right now.
Yeah. So these spiritual values, once we cultivate these philosophical and spiritual values in our life, as I've explained in my last talk, that we can cope up with our emotional problems in a much more better manner. So as I said, we know what is going on in Palestine, and you know what happened in India recently.
Yeah.
So why this is happening? The separatist or the tribal mentality. Okay, so that is why these philosophies and spiritual principles are necessary in this era more than ever.
I suppose this would be an excellent time to mention, being that this is a podcast of the Mystery College, that we are currently in the works, working in a collaborative attempt with the Perseus Academy. And so we propose a system, if you will, an ideology where, and we call the system Concordianism, from the Latin concordia, concord, unity, the unification of systems, where we approach esoteric tradition, religious experiences, spiritual insight from the vantage point which is welcoming to all, neutral, easily accessible, readily repeatable, and applicable regardless of whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever it is that you believe in. So hopefully, philosophy in action, faith in action. This is what we're trying to do. So moving forward, from this podcast onwards, in perpetuity, even after all of the hosts, the guests have all gone on to other planes of existence, may we all find oneness in each other.
Exactly, and it's nice to hear about this. And thank you for giving me the opportunity again.
You're one of, we love having you, and we would love to have you again, in the future as time permits and as opportunity presents itself, because we know you're very busy with everything.
I'm quite free right now, but I'll be going for my minimal access surgery training from June 3rd, so I'll be busy after that.
We still have time, so we'll see. Let's do exactly that. Well, we have time. Let's make the best out of time. So would you guys be okay if we ended the podcast with a I think Dr. Ram is familiar with the Shanti prayer, Sarvesham Svastir Bhavatu?
No, we use something else, but
please, by all means, from your system. A prayer for peace, a prayer for peace from your system.
Okay, so you know what, we usually use Asatoma Sadgamaya, so
it's okay.
Do we really want to do this?
Yes, we do.
So I'm not familiar doing this, so I think you understand the initial sinus. So anyway, I will chant this. So Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityoma Amardam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So so I started it. So next time I will use a different prayer as well.
Yes, definitely. Now, from my system to everyone else, but I will translate it in English, just so the most people can also be part of it. I pray that there will be well-being in all, that there will be peace in all, that there will be fulfillment in all, that there will be enduring peace, consistent peace, and perfect peace. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you so much, everyone, for giving us your time and your patience in being with us in our podcast again. We look forward to having you in future episodes. And Dr. Ram, we look forward to more talks with you in the near future. This has been great. This has been excellent. I hope everyone has a good evening, morning, noon, whatever time it is. If you don't have time where you're at, you're probably in the twilight zone, and that's scary. Stay away from me. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye for now. Catch you guys soon.
Next time.